I want to start off, before I introduce myself, I wanted to start off by saying that I really appreciate you guys meeting here on a monthly basis, and I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but the fact that you guys are spreading the message about the fact that we are focusing on native plants, and we have a lot of referrals that come in from you folks. Yeah, a lot of people that come in and say, hey, I heard from so-and-so in the Native Plant Society and whatnot, and it's obviously helpful to our business, so we do greatly appreciate that, and are excited that you guys are able to use this as a place to benefit your organization every month.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We are very grateful. We really appreciate it.
Great, good. So my name's Ed Donnelly. About 12 years ago, I went through a midlife crisis, and instead of getting a Corvette and a girlfriend, I decided to start a tree farm. You know, they say if you want to make a small fortune in the nursery business, you start off with a large fortune. Okay. So we moved out here from Frisco in 2014. I was working full time in the computer industry, and I was in sales. And we started growing shade trees out here in this half of the nursery, and slowly migrated this direction. And in 2018, I was still working my full-time job, traveling and commuting back into Dallas and whatnot. And through the grapevine, I heard that Bob Wells Nursery was going up for sale. And my wife and I looked at it, and over the course of about a year, we determined that if we purchased his business, it would allow me to work in the nursery business full time, and we felt like we could really grow the business and do something special with it. So we acquired the nursery from Bob in 2018. We moved here in October of 2020. So it's been 5 years now, and we added this building, the dock, the warehouse, moved all the shade trees that were in front to the back, and then started moving trees over here. It took us about a month to move 20 to 25,000 trees up here.
Oh, wow.
I had several friends help me that have large trailers and this, that, and the other. And when we got down to the end, we were literally went and rented a U-Haul, and we could fill it up twice a day, get it up here, unload it, and get it back. And people look at you funny when you say, "Hey, I need to rent a full-sized U-Haul. I'm moving a house for here locally, a local move." Well, what do you think? Maybe 2 or 3 days? Oh, yeah, why don't you give me 5 to 6 days? Like, it doesn't take that long to move a house. So, we got it done, and here we are today. A couple things I want to mention before I jump in. The first is we do have some of the older issues of the Texas Gardener and Edible DFW magazine up here. They're free to take. Feel free to grab one of these if you'd like. The second thing I wanted to mention is this Saturday, we got a good friend of mine coming, Chris Weisinger. Has anybody heard of Chris before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Chris and I have known each other for a long time, and he has his website, the southernbulbs.com. He's got his book, The Bulb Hunter. If you have any interest in learning more about growing bulbs, this is the guy to hear from, and he'll be here on Saturday morning. Chris is a great speaker, and we're really excited to have him here. So I highly encourage you to attend that if the bulbs are of interest to you. The last thing I wanted to mention is end of October, beginning of November is the perfect time to plant strawberry plants. We went through a lot of difficulty this year trying to nail down our strawberry plants, because a lot of the large growers that we get them from in California require a one-time minimum purchase of 30,000 plants.
Oh my God. Wow.
So I literally worked on this for about 6 months. We got some in last Friday. They are here now. We have 4 different varieties available. They're all well suited towards the climate up here in North Texas. So if you're interested in strawberry plants, they are ready now. This is the best time to get them in the ground. So I wanted to make you aware of that. Okay. So this is a new presentation for me. We've done some similar things before, but this one specifically is new. And we're really going to focus on what native plants, trees, shrubs, bushes either produce fruit or the tree shrub itself can actually be eaten as fruit or consumed in some way. And so, you know, when I started working on this, it's funny because I had a lady email me once from Tyler, Texas, and she said, we want to plant a large orchard, and we would like to get some apples and some peaches and this, that, and the other, but we would like everything to be native. And I was like,
No.
ma'am, I don't mean to be a wet blanket, but you're not going to be planting peaches and apples and pears and a lot of other stuff if you're going with strictly native plants. The other thing that I want to mention is how we define native, because it's really odd to me that we have this mindset that something grows in El Paso, that it's native to Texas. How good is something that does in El Paso going to do here?
Yeah.
Not very well, right? And something that does well here is not going to do very well possibly in the Rio Grande Valley or El Paso or otherwise. And so we put this arbitrary native barrier around ourselves just based on the state line, right? So, and in some cases, we do have native plants, but we also have some of the cultivars that come from those native plants. So I've taken a slight bit of liberty on some of the things we're going to talk about, and I will point those out to you. The other thing that I've got on here is I tried to tailor the presentation to where we start off with the things that I think you'll be most familiar with to the things that are probably less common. So I'm curious to see what y'all's thoughts are in terms of who's heard of what, and when we get down to the end, if any of you guys have heard of these plants before, okay? All right, so let's get started. Uh-oh, that's not good. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right, crisis averted. So we're going to talk about, just for a second, a couple of preview items, and then we're going to talk about all the different fruits, and then a couple slides about long-term care. I assume everybody's familiar with this map, the cold hardiness and chill hour map, or cold hardiness map. Most of the things that we're going to talk about, again, we talked about things that grow well here may not grow well in El Paso and vice versa, but we're generally going to be talking about things that do well in our zone of 8A to 8B, 7 to maybe even 9, depending on what else it is. But most everything's going to be suited to this climate. Most everything's going to have the proper amount of chill hours that we need in order to set fruit and all those kind of things. So I just wanted to kind of set that as a baseline. By the way, if you're ever interested in tracking chill hours, the A&M AgriLife Extension Office in Overton publishes it on their website every year. And they actually track it in real time as we go every 24 hours. Okay. Second assumption is that there are better times of the year to plant. Virtually everything that you're going to plant is going to require water in the heat of the summer. I can't tell you exactly how much water that is, but if you're engaged with your environment and you're engaged with your plants and with your garden and with your orchard, you can generally tell pretty easily. Also, we would expect that you're going to provide some type of nutrition, whether it's a synthetic or an organic fertilizer or worm castings or compost or something else. And then also that you're going to be mulching those trees. One of the things that I've really started to stress with our customers in the last year or so is mulching around new trees. The fact that it provides a shade to the dirt around the tree to keep those roots from heating up also acts as a barrier for the moisture to escape the soil, especially around here where it's so sandy. Mulching is terribly important. pH also comes to mind, but just from a general sense, we are looking at plants that are going to do well around here as well, based on these assumptions, okay? So the first is the dewberry. Is there anybody that's not familiar with the dewberry? Okay, I hit a home run. All right, not a single raised hand, that's great. So the dewberry is a great plant, native from Texas all the way up into other parts of the south and eastern seaboard. We have them growing wild on our property. When we moved here back in 2014, it was great. The girls would go out and pick them. They'd come back all covered with purple hands, and we'd make a blueberry or dewberry or mix a crisp of some kind. Maybe throw some strawberries in as well, and ice cream. And I got the benefit of that. And you can tell right here. They are great for fresh eating. You can do other canning with them, fruits and jams and jellies and whatnot. The one drawback is that they are going to be thorny. For those of you that have picked them before, you will realize that they're thorny and you will get scratched. That is why a lot of people tend to choose the thornless cultivars of blackberry over the dewberry. The Rubus trivialis is the specific variety that's native to the southern U.S. Oddly enough, when I purchased the nursery from Bob, I learned over the last 7 years or so that some of the things he may or may not have done were not things that we would typically want to do at our nursery. One of them is that all of the dewberry, and I didn't know this till this past year, all the dewberries that we had sold here for the last 6 years were not good for this area. I had no idea. Linda, our office manager, will occasionally go in and do a little bit more research on certain things, and she pointed it out to me. So we're actually going to be moving over to the Rubus trivialis, which is the native variety for the southern U.S. Okay. This is very much what they look like. We have them all over our property. If there's any of them growing within 1,000 feet of this building, my employees will just wipe them out as they come off the vine. Anybody with any questions on those? Okay. Muscadine. Has anybody not heard of muscadine? Okay, I'm 2 for 2. Muscadine grapes do extremely well here in East Texas. This is native property for them. They do very well in hot, dry, wet, cold, heat, you name it. They're just a very well-rounded grape. Most people these days are growing the improved cultivars. Okay, so we're not going out into the forest finding wild grapes and cutting them and making and grafting them or propagating them. These are grown cultivars. Some of the names that you might be familiar with would be things like Noble and Cowart and Carlos, Triumph, Supreme. There's a couple of newer varieties that are coming out that are, there's the Seedless Fry, which is good for fresh eating. A lot of people will use these for making desserts, jams, jellies, wine, things of that nature, because they can be a little bit musky. They also tend to have a little bit of a thicker skin, and they're just not quite as appealing to eat fresh as table grapes. But some of the varieties are actually very tasty, and we do eat them here. They have a low chill hour requirement, so they don't take a lot of cold time to set fruit. And I do want to point out that if you're interested in doing muscadines, be aware that there are self-fertile varieties and female varieties. The self-fertile varieties will set fruit on their own. The female varieties must be paired with a self-fertile variety in order to set fruit. So what we generally would recommend is up to about 5 of the female plants with a self-fertile plant if you wanted to go that route. If let's say you wanted an all granny val, which is female, you'd have to toss in one of the self-fertile plants to go along with it. They can get rather large as well, although for those of you that might have been here when Michael Cook has come and spoken, he's the state viticulturist at A&M AgriLife. He suggests keeping them pruned to about 20 feet. What they found is you get the same amount of fruit off the vine. It's just tighter clusters when you prune the vine down versus letting it go. If you let it go, you're going to get the same amount of fruit. It's just going to be more spread out. So this kind of allows you to get a little bit more. You can put more into a smaller space, and you should get about the same production. But they're great for trailing on fences and other things, and do extremely well around here. Yes.
When you plant them, how long till you get fruit? Like a lot of times they say it's 3 years.
Yeah. So with the muscadines, if you were to plant fruit now, you might get a few next year. Sometimes we actually have them put on fruit out here in the little 1-gallon containers we sell them in. But realistically, if you planted them now, you'd be looking at 2027 before you really started to get a reasonable harvest on them, which is not bad at all, right? Okay.
What kind are growing wild out there?
Just wild native ones, the ones that God put on the earth, and as they grew,
Are they self-fertile then, or are they not?
I don't really know about the wild ones, but it's all a matter. It's just like anything else where the plants have come up, they've seeded, they've gone to seed, fallen, and then that process just repeats itself over and over and over again through the centuries. And that's how we've come up with what's out there today. I was talking to a friend of mine, Sam, over at Texas Pecan Nursery, and I said, Sam, how did we end up with so many cultivars of pecans? And he goes, well, we didn't do anything. These were all found in nature. And so what happens is, as different pollen from the different pecan trees cross-pollinates with each other, and that seed falls, that seed is now a combination of two other trees, right? Okay? So if a Kiowa pecan and a Pawnee pecan both pollinate onto this single fruit, that nut now is half Pawnee, half Kiowa. And that continues to happen throughout decades and eons of time, and that's how new varieties come about. And what they'll do is they'll find one of these trees sitting out in somebody's 1,000-acre ranch that nobody's ever seen before, and they'll go, oh my gosh, look at this nut, look how good it tastes, it's paper shell, and then they brand it as a new cultivar. The same thing happens with muscadines. The same thing happens with peaches and all these other things that we carry. We're doing selective pollination in order to get these other varieties. And they'll trial these things over and over and over again for years until they get the specific characteristics that they want on that plant, whether it's size, taste, sweetness, juicy, disease resistance, pest resistance, whatever it is. That's how these things are propagated over time. Okay? Sorry to get off on a bit of a tangent there. In the past, we've left it up to nature for the seeds to cross-pollinate, fall, regrow, and then those plants cross-pollinate with other plants. But what we've done with technology is we've sped up that process, and through research and other things that the universities have done. Mustang grapes. Anybody heard of Mustang grapes? Okay. Did I a swing and a miss there? Are you the only person that's heard of Mustang grapes?
No.
Okay, we got plenty of others. All right, great. All right, good. Mustang grapes are another type of wild grape that grows native out here in East Texas. I personally have, I think we have a vine back here on our property, but I've never seen to be out there when the grapes are ripe. I've never tasted them before. They are highly acidic and highly bitter. Most of the time that they were used historically was by either the Native Americans or the settlers that came in, and they would use them to make jam and jelly or wine because they would just add a ton of sugar to sweeten it up. They are extremely durable. They can tolerate almost any soil conditions. They are tough. When a vine is very old, the actual trunk itself for a Mustang vine can be about 1 foot in diameter. The one drawback is they can be very aggressive in their growth pattern, and they can shade out other things. While they do provide great habitat and a lot of good food for wildlife, they can take over trees, they can take over other plants, and they can shade them out and kill them over time. So you do want to be careful where you would plant these. I don't know of any nursery that carries them, but they are out there and they are available, and is something they are a native plant that is edible. Like I said, they're very important and beneficial for shelter and food to wildlife. I've also heard that these grapes will stain pretty bad as well, so you wouldn't want to put them next to anything else that you wouldn't want to get stained. Okay. If you're gonna go with a non-table grape or non-wine grape, my personal recommendation is go with a muscadine. You're going to get a lot better bang for your buck. The 5 lobes on the plant is a dead giveaway too for the Mustang grapes. Okay, Mayhaw. Anybody not heard of Mayhaw? Okay, I got it. See, I think I'm doing a good job. I had 1 hand last time, I got 3 this time. We're working in the right direction. Okay, has anybody harvested Mayhaws before?
No.
Has anybody had Mayhaw jelly?
Yeah.
Okay. I personally have not had it, but the people that have had it swear it's the best tasting jelly they've ever had. That it's amazing. Mayhaws do grow natively here in East Texas. They are native to the southern U.S. They're typically going to be found in wet areas. A lot of times when people find these out in the wild, they are in boggy, swampy areas, and you put on your waders or whatever else, and you go out there and you start harvesting the mayhaws. They do. They can also tolerate drier soils, but they need to be slightly acidic, and they also need to be what was the other thing I'm thinking about? Yeah, slightly acidic and well drained. Although they can survive literally underwater. The one that we have in our pond out here is underwater half the year and above water half the year. We planted it right on the edge of the old pond that was built here back in the 60s. They are fairly pest and disease resistant, fairly easy to grow. They are a little bit slow growing. We haven't gotten any fruit off of ours yet. There's about 4 or 5 different cultivars that we carry. So we do have the native mayhaw, the actual native plant, but we also carry cultivars, and you'd want to mix those for cross-pollination in order to get fruit off of them. Well suited to zone 7 to 10. This is about the normal size of a tree here. A lot of folks that find mayhaws out in the wild will take that secret place to their death because they don't want to give it up and have somebody else beat them there to get the mayhaws. But if you can find some locally, great. If not, you can grow some as well. And again, they make extremely good jam and jelly. All right. Any questions on that? Okay. Persimmons. I'm going to imagine that most people have seen or heard of the common persimmons that grow wild around here, right? Okay. These trees, I have become a huge fan of persimmons. I had never had a fresh persimmon before until about probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I have become a big fan of them, particularly because they're just tough. They can handle the cold, they can handle the heat, they can handle the drought, they can handle the rain. They just really do well in most conditions. And the only problem I've ever had with them is we had some small ones that got some borers on them about 5 years ago. Don't know why, hasn't happened since, but we lost about maybe 20 to 30 plants with borers in them. The ones that we have growing around here are, the native ones are going to be the common persimmon or eastern persimmon, which is Diospyros virginiana. Diospyros, by the way, is Latin for fruit of the gods. The fruit is not great, and that's why we do sell the native variety here, but we will typically sell a lot of the Asian varieties for fresh eating, simply because these are so acidic and tart and astringent. You can use these to do, like, you can process them and put them in desserts. You can put them in muffins, things of that nature. My wife and kids have made persimmon muffins and things of that nature. But the fruit on here is not great, but it is edible. So I did want to include it in here. I will mention that persimmon trees can be extremely slow to root. When we plant our persimmon trees in our 5-gallon pots in January or February, they're just now getting rooted into those pots. They take an extremely long time, which is why we don't sell any of the persimmons bare root, because when we did, everybody killed them, and then they would come back and want to replace them. So if you're going to buy a persimmon from us, it's going to always be in a container. The other drawback is that they are grown from seed, and so they can be either male or female, and you don't always know what you're getting. You do really need to have both in order for them to produce fruit. That's not too much of a problem out here because they do grow wild, and you're probably going to get some cross-pollination going there. But if you were to buy one and you didn't have any other wild persimmons around, you may not get any. Okay. And as always with almost any other persimmon, even if it's pollinating, it's getting the pollen it needs, it's always best to have two or more trees for cross-pollination, even if they are self-pollinating. Okay. But I'm a big fan of the persimmons. These are great for wildlife. The deer love them. Very, very popular with people that want to attract wildlife. The next is the Texas Black Persimmon, and you'll notice I put the muscadine and Mustang grapes together. I did the same thing with the persimmon, even though the black persimmon is probably not as well known as some of the other things that we're going to cover. Has anybody seen these before? Anybody familiar with these?
Central Texas?
Yeah. They're very popular in Central Texas. We started getting some requests for these. Again, we're trying to push our customers towards things that are native and will do well here. And so we started carrying these about 2 years ago. Native to really from about the coast up through Central Texas into Oklahoma, and then out a little bit further west into New Mexico. We have one planted here. So far, they have done pretty well, even though we're a little bit more wet and more acidic than they would be in the hill country. The hill country is going to have less rainfall each year. It's also going to have more alkaline and calciferous rock soil. But so far, it's done pretty well. We're still waiting to see how it does, but we have good expectations for this. So when we talk about native plants, one of the benefits is that it is adapted to the heat and drought that we get here in Texas, and that's really, really important. This is another one where the plants are dioecious, which means they are either male or female. If you're going to plant one of these, I'd probably recommend that you get a second. That way you don't have to worry about not getting any fruit off of it. But the trees, what's interesting about these is the Texas Black Persimmon is more of a large shrub to small tree, whereas most of the other persimmons are really more larger trees. And so it's going to be a little different. The black fruit is the actual ripe fruit here, and it has the taste and consistency similar to a prune when you eat it. They're probably not the best tasting persimmons out there, but they are edible, and people do harvest them to eat. Elderberry. I imagine most everybody in here has heard of elderberry, right? Okay. Another rock solid, tough plant for this part of Texas. Ours have survived through heat, through cold, through rain, through drought, you name it, everything we can throw at it, it stays alive. I have not seen any pest or disease pressures with the elderberry. They just continue to thrive. Couple things to keep in mind. Rachel generally has me prune hers back, or we have the workers prune them back in the wintertime when they're dormant. They can get up to about 8 to 10 feet tall. We'll come in and usually cut them off at about 3 to 4 feet, and that way the flush we get the next year is a little bit lower to the ground, and they still produce like mad. I mean, tons of flowers, tons of berries. These are the flowers here. These are the berries here. Has anybody made an elderberry syrup out of elderberries before?
Yeah.
Okay. So the elderberries themselves are not for fresh eating right off the tree. You can do that. It'll upset your stomach. It's not going to kill you. But generally what you're doing with these is you are making them into a syrup or a tincture because you're looking for the health benefits out of the elderberry, not so much the taste or the flavor. The elderberry is extremely high in antiviral properties, a lot of antioxidants and other vitamins and minerals or vitamins. We sold a ton of these when COVID was out, and we still sell quite a bit. You do have to have 2 varieties for cross-pollination. So we sell 4 different varieties here. You would pair up the Johns and the Adams, or the Wildwood and the Ranch, and you'll also find these growing natively all over East Texas. If you look in, I want to say it's late March to early April is when they begin to flower, and you can just see them growing along the highways and the roads. We've got a few on our road down here that are just out there along the road. So even if you don't have one in your backyard, if you see one growing and flowering somewhere around you, keep an eye on it and then go harvest the flowers off of it. But my wife harvests pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of this stuff every year. She freezes them in separate bags so that when she wants to make a syrup and she needs, let's say, 4 cups or 2 pounds or whatever it is. She just goes and pulls a single bag out of the refrigerator. Or the freezer. It's got exactly what she needs, and then she's able to process it.
How do they do clay?
Pardon?
In clay?
So what I have seen is that they do extremely well in just about any soil type. Okay? Yeah.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
It needs to be full sun.
Yes, full sun. If it got a little bit of afternoon sun, when we talk about full sun, we're generally talking about 6 hours, maybe 8 hours. If you had late afternoon sun, say after 3 or 4 o'clock, I bet they would be fine. Okay? Was there another? Did I see another hand? Okay. Okay, Mexican plum. Everybody familiar with Mexican plum? Anybody not familiar with Mexican plum? Okay. So the Mexican plum is a native to Texas. It's oftentimes used as a landscape tree nowadays. Not too many people grow the tree for its fruit, but the fruit is edible. And the reason why people plant it as a landscape tree is because of the beautiful white flowers in the springtime. These trees can get, when they start getting large, they are loaded with beautiful flowers, great for pollinators. The fruit is also great for wildlife, extremely beneficial to wildlife. But you put that in your landscape, it's going to be a tree that's about 20 to 30 feet tall. So it's not a huge shade tree, but it's going to provide the beautiful white flowers. It's also going to provide a small amount of shade in your yard, and that's why it has such strong appeal in landscapes. The fruit is not great. Typically, you're going to use it for jams or jellies or syrups or juice or something like that. You're probably going to need to add some sugar to it. You have to catch them kind of at the right time in order for them to be sweet enough to where it's almost kind of like today they're not ready, and then tomorrow they're way past prime. It literally seems to happen that fast. But you'll also see birds coming in and just picking them off your trees and stuff as they come through and migrate and all those other things.
We have one that just came up natively, but I barely ever see fruit on it. I'll see one here and one there, but it's covered in blooms in the spring. So I don't know if the birds eat it or it just doesn't. The fruits are little and.
Sounds like it needs a pollinator.
More than likely, what you've got is a Chickasaw plum.
It's not.
It's not? It's a tree?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a tree.
Well, we'll come back to that in a second. Because the Chickasaw, the native Chickasaws, tend to not put on nearly as much fruit as the.
I have that also.
Okay.
So this is definitely a Mexican plum.
Got it. Yes, ma'am.
I like that they're so wide, that they're wider actually than they are tall.
Yeah.
And they smell like honey.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it knocks you out if you get into that line of where that scent is running. It's just hits you.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't get much fruit either, but I read that I had to have 2, and I only have 1 tree.
Well, it's interesting because we have 2 in our front yard, and we're just right over here. We haven't gotten a ton of fruit on ours yet either. I don't know if it's because of age or size or whatnot. But I would also tell you that we grow them here in the nursery, and I oftentimes don't see fruit on them either. But it could be because they're small and not mature enough. I don't have enough experience with them yet. But they are a gorgeous landscape tree, and like you mentioned, the smell is great. They're great for pollinators, great for the wildlife. So it's something that you can add to your landscape and get fruit off of it, as well as get the beauty of it. Once established, can handle a wide variety of soil types. I will tell you that if you're in heavy clay, you might have a little bit of trouble. Typically, the plum trees and cherries and things of that nature don't handle really, really wet conditions, but in general, it can handle a wide variety of soil types. So the other type of plum that we just referenced is the Chickasaw plum. Does anybody have Chickasaw plum growing at their place? Man, I've got a thicket out there. Go ahead. What were you gonna say? Were you gonna say something? Yes.
I think I do. That's the one that I just call it a wild plum.
Yeah.
And it can grow in like a thick, maybe a thicket more than a tree.
Yes.
And the branch, they're kind of reddish when they come out in the spring. The wood color is red.
Yeah, and they typically grow more like a shrub or a small tree. than they do an actual tree itself. Whereas the Mexican plum is an actual tree with a single trunk, and you get the branching up here. The Chickasaw plum will oftentimes have multi-trunk right close to the ground. I wish we had time, and maybe one day we can. We have an area on the backside of our property where there are hundreds, if not thousands, of these growing, and they can grow like weeds. They are beautiful. They produce a very intense thicket. Great for wildlife habitat, and the deer love the fruit coming off of them. This is another fruit where you have to catch it at just the right time. Otherwise, you're going to get a good pucker factor, or you're going to go, oh my gosh, that's rotten. Don't ask me how I know. Yeah, this is another one where you're probably not going to eat too many of these fresh, but you can go out and harvest enough of them. You can process them and make some jams and jellies out of them. The fact that they grow here natively, there's no pest or disease pressure. They can tolerate all of the weather conditions that we've had. I have mowed down a thicket of them before, and 2 years later, they are back brighter and bigger than ever. They're typically going to get about 8 to 10 feet, not much taller than that.
Can they be interspersed between a thicket of other trees, or do they need more direct sun than that?
So, I don't know the actual answer to that, but I will tell you that ours tend to grow very well around other trees, okay? The area that I'm talking about back here on the backside of our property where we've got them, there are some that grow out in the open, and there are some that grow clustered up next to the edge of the tree line, yes, okay? They are very pretty too when they bloom in the springtime. I do. The blooms don't last long, but I do enjoy the blooms on those. And the fruits are about yay big, maybe about the diameter of a quarter or so, or a nickel. Yopon holly. Anybody ever eaten some Yopon holly? Well, you probably won't eat any either after today, but you can make a tea out of it. So the Yopon holly is native. It grows very well in this part of Texas. I've got a friend who's got some land down near Buffalo, and you go out in the woods there, and they are all over the place. Native to the eastern half of Texas and the eastern half of the U.S. They are an evergreen shrub. They're primarily used nowadays as a landscape plant in people's yards. A lot of folks like them because they've got the red berries on them, and they do turn red this time of year. They're very colorful, especially off the evergreen foliage that they have. The berries themselves are not edible, but they are great forage for wildlife, especially birds. The American Indians and the Native Americans that lived here typically used it as a tea. There are some other health benefits, and there are some other things that you can do with the leaves, but that's going to be the primary use if you were ever going to try this. You simply dry the leaves, you steep them for about 2 to 5 minutes. It's got a little bit more caffeine than a cup of tea, but a little bit less than a cup of coffee. I've never tried it. I've heard it's pretty good. I have a friend who's really big into prepping, and he says, this is where I'm getting my caffeine because I got to have my coffee in the morning. And I'm like, all right, go for it. So this is a great plant to have in your yard, again, both for aesthetic reasons, for providing forage to the wildlife, and you can actually try making a tea out of it.
And they come in male and female, and the males do not produce berries.
That is correct. That is correct.
One.
So that's why a lot of customers when they buy these and plant these, they like to come this time of year so they can see if it's got berries on it. Prickly pear.
Yum.
All right. Anybody ever eaten prickly pear? Okay. Most people don't think about cactus when they think about edible plants, but the prickly pear is edible, both the plant itself as well as the fruit up here on top. They do best, as any cactus would, in full sun, sandy, rocky, poor, dry soil. They can thrive in just about any conditions, but they are excellent in just the poor soils of central Texas and out west. Most people, when they use the fruit, are going to process either the fruit itself or the actual petals. I forget what they call those.
No pollen.
Napolitos or something like that.
Napolitos?
No, I think, is that right? Napolito?
No pollen.
No Paula's? Okay. Well, I'm gonna take your word for it. We're gonna use that for today, okay?
I think she's right. It's good.
They are good. A lot of folk, they're generally, it's not like you're gonna go up to the plant, take the thorns off and just start munching on it. A lot of times people are gonna use these as, they're gonna mix it in their smoothie or in their juice. They're gonna make some type of jam or jelly out of it. They're gonna make it into some type of mix it in with some type of salad dressing like oil and vinegar. I've had prickly pear salsa before. It's delicious. So you can use it in a lot of different ways for food. The actual fruit itself can be eaten fresh. It does have a little bit of almost like little hairy thorns on it. You take those off, you kind of skin it. Chad, who works for me, we were talking earlier, and he said he loves eating these things fresh. You just kind of take off the outer layer. He said they're kind of a watermelony flavor, and so they're very tasty. I myself have never had them before.
Prickly pear candy.
There you go.
Oh, it's so good.
They can also, because of the high water content, they can be very beneficial to wildlife during extreme drought conditions. You may have even seen pictures on the news where the farmers are going out and they are burning the thorns off the plants so the cows can eat them. I've seen that before. Yeah. Back when we had some really extreme droughts and there was nothing else alive, they were going out and burning the thorns off. The cows would eat it. It gave them, number one, it gave them some food to eat, but it also gave them some food that's high in water content, which is good. So this is one of the benefits of this plant too, is if you were ever caught yourself out in the open and unprepared or got lost somewhere, hiking or somewhere else, this is a plant that you can go to help keep you alive.
You can actually stir fry that with onions and red peppers, and it's a really good side dish.
Okay, well, I think you should bring some for the class next time.
Well, I think you can actually buy some of that in some of the local stores.
Did you? Yeah. I have seen prickly pear in the stores occasionally. We also do carry the thornless prickly pear at times, so you don't have to mess with the thorns. Okay?
Yeah, I'll bring that to the Christmas party.
And I will tell you a quick story. When we first moved here, my friend Chris Weisinger had one growing at his farm right up the road here, and he cut one off, gave it to me, just a half of one of these lobes here, and said, here, take it to your daughters, have them plant it somewhere and it'll grow.
Oh.
And I did, and it did. And it made it all the way up to about this high with many, many different lobes, and then the freeze of 21 ended up killing it. Yeah. But they're easy to transplant, easy to propagate. Okay, red native mulberry. Anybody had a red native mulberry? Yes?
I have one.
What'd you think?
I eat them.
You like them?
No, but I don't like fruit much. But I'll eat it more than once.
Okay.
So it's not bad.
Anybody else had it before?
Yeah, I'm not sure if ours is red or black.
Okay. Well, it can be difficult to tell because, without DNA or otherwise, it can be oftentimes hard to tell which one is which. Typically, we can kind of tell the difference of the red ones typically come off a little bit more red and then turn to that purplish black color. Also, sometimes the leaves are a little bit different size or variation on the leaves. And so there are some ways to determine that. But the red native mulberry is the mulberry that is native to Texas. All of the other mulberries are imported from the Middle East. So things like just the plain black fruiting mulberry, the Persian, they're white, what's the other one? There's another one that's escaping me at the moment, but all of those have been imported. I like the taste of mulberries. I've been a pretty big fan of them. When my kids were young, the neighbors had one across the street, and they would climb up in the trees. It wasn't the red native; it was just a regular mulberry. They'd climb up in the trees and eat them for a couple of hours, and just come down just covered in juice. And it stains everything, as you're probably aware.
Yeah.
But they had a blast, and it's one of those childhood memories that they'll never forget. And when we moved here, Rachel was like, "Oh, we're planting some mulberry trees because our grandkids are going to climb in them." I'm like, "All right, let's do it." One of the reasons why you typically don't see these in stores is because the high water content, they don't travel well. You can't ship them. They're gonna start juicing and breaking apart if you try to package them and ship them to a store. One of the other benefits of these trees is the fact that the tree's gonna get pretty large, 40 to 45, 50 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
You're gonna get a nice shade tree out of this. So again, kind of like some of the other things we talked about earlier, you're gonna get something nice for your landscape. You're also gonna get fruit off of it that you can eat. You're also gonna have food for wildlife available as well, all in a single tree. So there's a lot of benefits to having a tree like this in your yard.
They're very dense, like they give a lot of shade. Not much grows under them.
Yep.
Because they're so dense.
Yeah, in a lot of cases they've got very large leaves too, and so they do provide a ton of shade.
They're also the first ones to put leaves on and the first ones to lose them.
So that's interesting that you say that, because the fact that I just recently learned is when a mulberry leaves out, that is supposedly a sign that we are past our last frost.
Right.
So
The first ones.
I've never seen it before, or I haven't tracked that before,
Yeah.
but I thought that was.
Pecans are supposed to do that too.
Are they really? Okay,
Supposedly.
I've not heard that before. I will tell you to avoid planting near anything that you don't want to get stained. A walkway, a car, a roof, lawn chairs, whatever it is. If you plant mulberries around there, they're going to get stained at some point. Okay, that is kind of one of the drawbacks. But other than that, they're a fantastic tree to have.
And they're wide.
Mm-hmm.
Real wide.
Yeah, they're going to get nice and wide as well. The Texas crabapple. Anybody familiar with the Texas crabapple? I was not until very recently. Primarily native to the Texas Hill Country, to Central Texas, Austin, and those areas west. I don't really know much about this plant. There's not a ton of information available online. It's kind of used as like a lot of the other fruits we've talked about for baking or jams or jellies, things of that nature. The great thing about it is you do get the beautiful flowers in the springtime, and it's native, so it does extremely well in Texas. Now, we don't sell them here. I don't even know where I would get one. I don't know how they would do in our climate here necessarily, but I did want to point it out that it is another variety that is native to Texas and does produce fruit. What we generally do is we point them to the other fruiting cultivars that we have, the other crabapple cultivars that we have that are going to produce bigger, nicer, sweeter fruit that you can eat fresh or you can use for canning and other dessert purposes. The deer do love crab apples. Again, good habitat or good forage for the wildlife that's out there with these trees. But they're still a little bit of a mystery to me. Pawpaw. Anybody not heard of pawpaw or heard of pawpaw?
I have one.
Okay. Anybody ever had a pawpaw fruit? Neither have I. So the pawpaws are kind of the forgotten fruit of North America. They grow wild from East Texas all the way over into the Atlantic and all the way north as far as Ohio, Michigan area. And in a lot of parts, especially in the more mountainous regions up towards Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, those areas, they're just growing all over the place natively and wild. So the fruit looks like this. It is considered the closest cousin to a tropical fruit that we have that grows native here in the U.S. So it's very, very similar to like a mango. It has that tropical flavor, soft consistency, very similar characteristics to it, which is why I'm excited to try them. I love mangoes. This is what the fruit looks like. This is what it looks like when it's cut in half. The blooms are incredible. I have not yet seen a bloom. Has anybody gotten a bloom on a pawpaw yet? Okay.
Aren't they? I don't remember being red, but they hang facing down.
I don't know yet.
Is that right?
I don't
Am
know
thinking
yet.
of the right tree?
Ours have not bloomed yet. Okay. So we do sell and grow native pawpaws, but there's also the improved varieties, the cultivars, and those are the ones that are going to give you the best fruit, the larger fruit, the fruit that has less seed to flesh ratio, you're gonna get more of the actual fruit and a lot less seed. So I would recommend, if you're gonna do pawpaws, try to go with some of the improved varieties. There's been a lot of research done on these, and a lot of the cultivars have come out of Kentucky State University, and then also Peterson. There's what they call the Peterson pawpaws, the Susquehanna, the Shenandoah. He has developed these or found these wild in nature and has grown them as a specific cultivar now. They will fry in the sun when they're young, the first 2 or 3 years. They have got to be protected. They can tolerate full sun and like full sun when they're big, so that does create a little bit of a conundrum for you. They do well as an understory tree. They would probably do a little bit better if you could plant it somewhere where it's gonna get, as the tree grows larger, it's gonna get a little bit more sun. What we do with ours out here is we've just put a piece of shade cloth around them during the heat of the summer. Ours have been in the ground now for a second summer. We'll see if they need shade again next year. But if you do not shade them the first couple of years, you will fry them to death. They will be gone instantly. Interesting enough, the flowers smell kind of funky because they cross-pollinate with flies, not bees. And so they do have an interesting scent to them. And I will also mention that it's the largest fruit that grows natively here in the U.S., in North America. I'm really excited about these. I can't wait to try our first fruit off of them. I was looking online. They've got the Pawpaw Festival that happens in some small town in Ohio every fall, and I just was like, man, I'd love to go up there and check that out. And you know, they sell pawpaws. They sell all kinds of other food that's made out of pawpaws.
I think I am right. All the flowers on them, they all face down. They grow on the underside of the branch, and so they're all facing down. They don't face up, which is neat because they're kind of over your head, and so then you're looking at the flowers too. And it was something that was stuck out to me. I thought that was really positive.
Yeah,
they have them at Stephen F. Austin.
Do they? Okay. Well, if you want to see what they look like out here, we do have 2 in the demonstration orchard. And I've got a couple more planted over by the house, but there are 2 out here that you can go take a
And
look
they're
at.
male and female, aren't they? Don't you have to have 2?
Well, they're not necessarily male and female, but you do have to have 2 different varieties for cross-pollination, correct? Absolutely, 100%. And I meant to mention that I didn't mention it, but I did have it on the slide. You got to have 2 different varieties.
So don't plan on biting all the flies.
Yes, correct. Okay, Agarita. Anybody familiar with Agarita?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we grow here?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with them yet. You know, the Agarita is a little bit more suited probably towards some drier areas west of here, but we've got ours planted in the ground here, and it's done extremely well. I know that I've got customers that have planted them up towards like Sherman or Gainesville, and they've done pretty well up there as well. I was not familiar with this plant until just a few years ago, and a customer called me asking about them, and I found them for them. They are a little bit more native to the coastal areas of Texas, up through central Texas, and then further west out into New Mexico or Arizona. So this is a little bit out of its native range, but I do think we can grow them here. If you want a plant that's going to keep the neighbors out, I got your solution right here. If you have ever touched an Agarita, it is prickly. It's got, you can see the thorns on all the leaves here. They've got multiple thorns on each leaf. They are just gnarly. And I would not want to try to get through one of these to get into somebody's yard. You're going to get scratched up pretty good. It does provide the berries that you can eat. It is also an excellent food for wildlife. It's a great source of pollen for the bees. Again, this is going to be something where the fruit is and the berries are generally going to be used in desserts and jams and jellies and canning and things of that nature. But it is an extremely drought tolerant plant, does extremely well in rough conditions, and it's just one of those plants where you know the summers are so hot and so long here, it's gonna survive. It's just gonna make it, which is great. I also found out recently that the roots have been used to dye wool and silk the roots can actually be used to color a lot of different fabrics. And for a long time, the settlers and the Native Americans used it for that purpose. Okay, I think that's the last one. Yeah. So just a couple things I want to mention real quick as we wrap up here, and that is, you know, one of the best ways to keep your plants healthy and to actually get fruit production is to take care of your plants. The great thing about most of the natives that we've talked about here today is they're well adapted to the soil conditions. They're well adapted to the heat and the cold, the rain, the dryness. They're also well adapted to less pest and disease pressure. But the healthier your plant is, the healthier your tree is going to be, and the more fruit it's going to produce. So we do highly recommend composting on a regular basis. You know, top dressing with compost 2 or 3 times a year, or organic fertilizer, or worm castings, whatever it is that you want to use. All the different natural ways of improving your soil health around your plants, use those. I mentioned earlier the bark mulch around the trees. That bark mulch is extremely important, especially during the heat of the summer for young plants, and making sure that the ground just doesn't get too hot and fry the roots. Other things that you can do are things like liquid or granular molasses to help increase and stimulate the biological activity in the soil. Mycorrhiza fungi, the humates. There's all sorts of different things that you can do to make your plants happy. And when you are especially when you're trying to produce fruit, the happier the plant, the better fruit you're going to get. Okay. Some of the things that we do in terms of pest and disease prevention are going to be things like your horticultural oil, your neem oil, copper fungicide, the garden insect sprays. If you do run into an issue with fruiting plants, the great thing is that there's plenty of options here for organic solutions to getting rid of the fungal issues or the pest issues that you've got. The benefit of a lot of these plants that we talked about today is that they're pretty resistant to all those things. Okay, that's another reason why I like to grow a lot of these plants, is just because they don't require any maintenance. They're pretty easy. You can get a lot of this stuff here. Another good resource online is called Arbico Organics. They carry an even wider variety of like the beneficial nematodes, the beneficial wasps, all that kind of fun stuff. And so if you do run into any issues, these are the things that you would want to use. Most of our customers, and I'm assuming a lot of you here, feel the same way, that if you're going to be producing fruit off of it that you're going to be eating, you're not wanting to use synthetic chemicals. Okay. So that's all I had. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody's got anything. I appreciate you allowing me to take up your time this afternoon, and be glad to do it again at some point down the road if you've got anything else you would like us to cover. Okay.
Thank you.